and it was accompanied by a huge, a wide-scale sexual exploitation of the tribal woman. So the whole tribal society was affected when this area was in 50s, 60s and 70s when opened up to the mining concessions and mining began. This has been the experience of the tribals. Many studies have shown that since 1947, there have been more than 40 million people who have been displaced from various land. Primarily, 45% of them happen to belong to the tribal communities who lost their land and who still remain unrehabilitated. 40, 50, 60 years. And in fact, it's very interesting that very recently in February, when the Maoists abducted a very senior IAS government bureaucrat, amongst the demands they had put was the demand for rehabilitation of tribals who had been ousted when a dam was built in 1970-71. About 25,000 of villages tribals were ousted, displaced from their land because the villages got submerged when this dam was built, and they had not been rehabilitated for more than 40 years. And it took an abduction to bring it to the notice of the public and of the authorities. Anyway, I'm running ahead of myself. The point I'm trying to make is very simply that there is a direct correlation between opening up of these mining areas, an attempt to open up these mining areas, to encourage foreign direct investment in these areas, and the resistance which the tribals are putting up, and therefore the government's desire to crush this resistance by use of military force. That's where the war comes in. This war is not directed against the Maoists insofar as, if it was, the question that could be raised is, why didn't they do it 20 years back, 15 years back, or 30 years back? Why didn't they do it earlier? Why now? Why did it become so important and so urgent for them to take this step now? And because it's taking place in such a large area, and in all this area, as Dipankar pointed out, there is to use Arundhati's very beautiful description, there is a biodiversity of resistance that is taking place across India in these 7 states. The different groups, different political formations which are resisting. It's not just the Naxalites or the Maoists. Different groups are engaged in this and spearheading this. So there is a biodiversity of resistance taking place in which Maoists also happen to be one. In my belief, my way of looking at it, the most formidable resistance is being provided by them. No doubt. And if they can weaken this, the rest of the resistance can also weaken. But what about the Maoists? They happen to be in the area. There are a lot of people who have a lot of questions about what are they up to, what their plan is, or how are they working. I think it's very important to disabuse ourselves and look closely. This thing that we were taught when we went to college and university, or when I went to college and university, to never forget the specificity. To never forget that even when we try to generalize, we should not forget what is happening. We must try and understand what is happening in reality. So instead of looking at Maoists from the prism of, say, Peru or elsewhere, I think the South Asian Maoist movement is very different kettle of fish. And especially after Nepal, I think everybody should disabuse themselves of any notion that they are much like what we have seen in Peru. This is a different kettle of fish. They've shown more imagination and creation and imagination than you find amongst a large section of democratic and left opinion, to the point where they have emerged in Nepal as one of the strongest political formation. Now, with this brief intro, let me talk about what the Maoists are doing. When they entered this area towards the end of 1970s, one of the things they met was, of course, many of these people who entered died either of malaria, attacked by bears or tigers. In addition, they were also faced with an area in which the forest and the police department were the overlords. It's their They were the ones who called the shots in this area. Well, how did the Maoists start working in this area? Very simple thing they did. The first thing is, which they did when they entered this area is teach the tribals to boil the water and drink it, which brought down infant mortality by about 50% in this area. Just a simple act of boiling water and drinking it, reducing infant mortality. And I think that won them the affection of the people in a major way. They also discovered through the surveys that one of the things that the tribals experienced was super exploitation in the hands of contractors. Now the forests are rich in forest producers. In India you have various forest producers which are sold, and the volume runs into thousands of crores. There is one of the most important is tendu leaf, from which BD, I don't know if you have seen BD, which is hand rolled cigarette, tobacco which is hand rolled and made into a cigarette which is smoked, and that's the cheapest form of smoke that people can get. So tendu leaf is an extremely important minor forest produce. Bamboo which is primarily used for paper industry. This area is rich in bamboo forests, and there is a huge demand for these bamboos. Now they discovered that these companies or the contractors which were appointed by the companies to purchase bamboos from the tribals were paying them a price which had been set in 1947. What was it? 1 paisa for 20 bamboo pieces was the price that was paid. What is 1 paisa? 45 rupees make $1. So 1/45th of a cent is what would be a paisa. For 20 bamboo pieces was the price that the tribals used to receive from the contractors when they sold the bamboos to them.
This is in 1970s?
Late 1970s, 1980, 81. Because after their intervention, this changed and the prices went down. Today the prices are much more. I mean, 1 rupee for the same 20 bamboo shoots, or the tendu leaf, where they were paid pittance, a 5 paisa for a bundle of 20. Today the prices range in different areas from anywhere between 50 paisa going up to 85 paisa to even in some places a rupee. So they organized the tribals so that they could negotiate from a position of strength and collectively negotiate with the contractors and extract a better price. That was the second thing they did. The third thing they did, which was all left movements in India, or this is part of the training of the left movement in India, is that whenever you move and start working in an area, you're supposed to carry out a class analysis or some kind of a survey of the area to get an idea about what are the issues, what is the composition of the people, what are the issues that confront. And they discovered that there was that unlike what the anthropologists believe, a tribal society is not a monolith. There is a hierarchy, there is stratification, and there is relationships between chiefs and their other clansmen which are of exploitative nature. For instance, the chiefs would not only have larger land holdings, but their clan brethren would have to work on the field of the chiefs before they could till their own land. Now, any agriculture which depends entirely on monsoon, what it means is that the best part of the monsoon season, which is meant for cultivation, is used to till the chief's land, and it's the fag end of the monsoons that you get for tilling your own land. They also discovered that there was a sizable population of the tribals, the poor tribals, who didn't own land or who had very poor land holding. So they claimed that they carried out a land reform in this area, and about 300,000 acres were distributed amongst the landless, land poor section of the tribal people. Now the interesting thing is that the Maoists didn't just stop at the level of intervention at in economic issues or land issues. They went beyond. I mean, mere distribution of land does not explain everything. It does not even necessarily create the conditions for improvement of people's own economies. Because giving a land, but then unaccompanied by any kind of agricultural input or assistance that people require in order to be able to cultivate the land requires some kind of an assistance. You require seeds, you require agricultural improvements, maybe you require some kind of rural credit in order to purchase some of the things that you require. That's what Maoists try to do. Now they also realize that they don't have the kind of resources that the state commands. But what they have is abundance of human resources. So they try to organize the people in such a way that human resources could be deployed and replaced to a certain extent, act as a substitute for lack of other resources. So what does that mean? If a plot of land has been given to one, instead of that family tilling that land, if you encourage the neighbors to get together and work collectively on each other's farms, they found that that was a very good way of not just helping each other, but also improving the agricultural productivity was also improving. I mean, the output also was increasing. When I went last year, the Maoists were engaged in a different, they were introducing and they were toying with, I mean, they had already started working in a new phase where they were trying to set up what they claim was cooperative farms, which is a very interesting development where the lowest unit which they have in their administrative structure, which is called the Revolutionary People's Committee, which comprises 4 to 5 villages, which are elected directly by the people, that those have cleared some plot of land, which is worked by the RPC, the Revolutionary People's Committee, as a cooperative venture. That is one thing they did. The other thing they did was very interesting, was that they also intervene on many issues, various issues of tribal practices and customs, which to their mind they felt which had degenerated. So this is a very controversial thing that they did in this tribal area, which was they changed the Ghotul practices. Now, Ghotul was a system which the tribals practiced, where the young men and women were supposed to come together and find partners. That it was probably associated also with some kind of a fertility right in a very low, extremely backward and poor agricultural area. Some kind of those practices, but they to their mind it had degenerated to a point where they found that the young men, it became a way in which the young men could sleep around with any women and the woman could say no, could not say no. They started a debate. It took them 6 years to persuade people to change Ghotul system, do away with those practices and retain other forms. It took them 6 years, and they're very proud of saying which is what they have brought about. The other area of their intervention was in preserving the tribal language. To the point where today they are now busy preparing a script, a script for the Gondi language. Now, of course, there is also a debate going on. When we were there was also this debate going on whether it makes sense for them to think in terms of creating a different script, or whether they should retain the Devanagari, the script in which Hindi is written, as the script for the Gondi language also. Now, this is the debate that they are having. Which way it will go, we don't know, but at least they're thinking in terms of having a separate script for Gondi language. So, I mean, the point I'm trying to make it in a nutshell is that in every aspect of life,